guys, welcome back to the Ovenge channel. Behind me we have the E46 M3. If you guys followed along with the previous episode, you've seen we were battling a belt issue along with the headers kind of not sealing properly against the cylinder head. So we're going to dive back into this, and I think I figured out exactly why our belt was squeaking and why it was giving us issues. And I do have the fix over here. If you're kind of wondering what's on the go with my hat here, it's actually a lavalier microphone. I'm not really impressed with the audio quality of the channel, so I'm trying a few different things. I might just move it around and see if I can get the proper audio. I guess probably where I come from a little bit of a musical background where I like to play guitar and whatnot, I can't get the frequencies and exactly where I want them. So I'm hoping this is the fix. It may look a little bit weird, but we're going to try to better the channel in audio, video, and hopefully step forward instead of going backwards. But to get away from that, I actually kind of think I found out why we were having the belt squeak and the belt issues. First and foremost, in the previous video, of course, I think I mentioned that this car was actually in a front end collision. So in turn, I want to say the water pump pulley is no longer in existence. I can't remember if I actually got the water pump pulley when I got the car, but this is the factory water pump off this car. And as you can see, hope you can see in the video, the flange is pretty jacked up. It's not sure if the shaft is actually twisted as well, but that flange is pretty bad right around here. You probably could have put a bit of heat to it and tried to straighten it, but we're not going to go down that road. So in turn, what I done, I went online and I bought the proper water pump for the S54 BMW. Unbeknownst to me at the time, I didn't realize that the S54 was actually used in another model in another year car, which I believe was the Z3. So right water pump, wrong pulley. And the difference between the two pulleys, this one's off the Z3 and this one is off the M3. Once again, the exact same part number water pump, just different pulleys. So as you can see, it's actually a bit different. It's actually quite a bit bigger off the Z3 and the M3 is a bit smaller. And as you can see, the mounting flange on both pulleys are quite a bit different. Let's see if I can kind of get that. As you can see, this one is definitely going to be further recessed in towards the car because your mounting flange goes in here on this flange. And this one obviously came out a bit further. So as I looked on the side and at the front of my motor, I noticed that the serpentine belt was perfectly all the way around until it came up around the alternator and went over this pulley, which is the water pump pulley. The belt actually wanted to jump back because this water pump pulley was probably a 1/4 inch towards the radiator, I want to say. Hopefully I'm explaining that great for you guys. So this one here is actually going to shove back towards the engine, and that's exactly what we need. So learned from my mistake. It was the right part number for the water pump itself, but it just didn't come with the right pulley. And let me be the guinea pig on that one, and hopefully you guys don't mess up like I did. The first thing we're actually going to dive into on this car today and tackle is this clutch fan. As you can see, we lost the plastic fin, and not really sure if that's throwing the weight of this thing off. For you guys that don't know, this actually goes on front of your water pump. As you can see, just to give you a quick rundown, this is actually bolted on the front of your car, of course. You mount this here like so, and then of course this goes here. And that kind of just cools your coolant as you're going through, draws air through your radiator. But, not to get too far away from our task here, I didn't want to run that. I mean, these cars actually spin up to around 8,000 RPM, 8,100 RPM. So you really don't want this thing spinning, I don't know, 20,000 RPM and be off balance. So very cheap, very easy fix. Bought this one offline. I think it was $40. So we're going to start by removing these 3 bolts right here, which is Allen head bolts. I actually got them loosened already, so it wasn't too big of a deal. Now, one thing that you guys do want to note when you're doing this is actually offset as well. The ring in here, this bolting flange, I guess you want to call it, is actually offset to the back. So when this came off, as you can see, we have these kind of fins or indentations, whatever you want to call it. That actually goes towards the threaded side, I want to call it. So that will actually go through the threaded side on this side. So we'll get this one out of the way because it's now junk. Put our grooves towards the back. It's going to be a great fit. And we're torqued down and we're ready to install. Looks great. That'll be way more better. So guys, I actually went ahead and removed the airbox lid. Of course, this is what this is, and our airbox itself. There was a couple shrouds here. Of course, this shroud is still there. Not sure if you guys can see it really well in the shot, but this flange here is actually your water pump output shaft, or your drive shaft, I guess you would call it, because this pulley does in fact drive the water pump. But one thing that you will have to take note of, that your holes are closer together here than it is to here, so there is a certain bolting way that it actually goes on, that it is orientated, I guess you could say. So that might be a little bit of a nuisance to kind of play with, but it should not be too bad. And what I'm actually going to do, I'm actually just going to put 2 bolts in this for now, because I think when I put that fan on, I actually had to use a certain tool to get that really tight. Now, with that being said, the fan threads themselves are reverse thread, I believe, so as the engine is spinning, let's say, clockwise, the threads are reversed, so it won't really come off, and it will kind of self-tighten, if you want to use that terminology. But we're going to set this bolt holes up the right way. Now I have the 2, you guys can't see it unfortunately, but I have the 2 tighter holes orientated up on top, so I'm going to do these 2, and then I'm going to utilize these 2 perhaps for the tool itself, hopefully. And the tool is kind of just a homemade tool that I made. You can buy them off Amazon fairly cheap if this is something that you kind of do on a daily, especially if you did remove the old fan that way, but I'm thinking it's because it was actually missing a fin, and that kind of gave me the clearance I needed to get around something. I can't really remember what. This shroud right here, unfortunately, is designed that it's just a closed hole, I want to say. There's no slot, so you can slide it in over the radiator hose here. There is a couple quick pins here you can pull. I really don't want to drain the fluid of this. I really don't want to mess around with the fluid. So I'm going to try to remove this new pulley that I put in and see if that's going to give me the clearance. I think that should help quite a bit. But like, guys, if you're going to do this on your own time, and you know, you're just messing around the garage, be very careful that when you're putting this in, you don't jam one of these fins into your radiator itself. And fingers crossed, I haven't done that yet, but I'm just saying it's something to watch out for. But if you took this hose off, which is literally 2 hose clamps, that would fall into place. But I don't want to drain the fluid. So that's going to be plan Z. If I got to drain the fluid, I guess we got to drain the fluid. But if this shroud keeps kind of messing around, it's going to mess around and find out, because it's soon going to be a slotted hole. That was a success. That definitely helped out. It gave me the clearance I needed to get that fan in there. Didn't hit the radiator, so everything's good. Didn't have to slot this shroud either, so that's perfect. The one tool that I actually just made, and you can buy these fairly cheap. Now this is just a piece of 1/8 flat bar I kind of had just kicking around here, and I just drilled a hole there. And what this kind of does is you bolt one hole there, and you put that into the water pump, and essentially it just kind of jams against the next bolt head, and that kind of just holds it enough that you could just tighten the jam nut, I guess you want to call it. It's not exactly a factory tool, but it does do the job. As well, guys. I'm not sure if I mentioned in the last video, but unfortunately I didn't start YouTube until quite recently, and this was a full build series in itself that I could have brought you guys along with for sure. But this car does have the big 3 done. There's only 84,000 kilometers on this car, so there isn't much going, but we did do the base on systems, upgraded Vanos system, hardened bolts. We changed out the timing chain guide, I believe it's called. Different Vanos, like the pressure plate and everything the Vanos and the base on system kind of offers, we done with this Vanos system. The other thing is that the connecting rod bearings were actually done from factory about 40,000 kilometers ago. Now, if I ever do go to do anything like mod was, like I'd love to have this thing supercharged or turbo or something, but if I ever go to do that, I will replace that again. Even though that there is only 40,000 onto it. So these are notorious as well, guys, for that rear subframe, the diff subframe, I guess you could call it, where that bolts up to the unibody, that cracks around there. So I actually made my own design, blew it out on the CNC table, and I welded that in, and they weren't even cracked. They were plenty strong. They weren't cracked, so they're just reinforced right now, which is great. But yeah, unfortunately I didn't bring you guys along with this whole build, and it was such a huge build, and it took a couple of years to finish complete to get to this point. And we're not really there yet. We're getting close. Hopefully in the next video, we're definitely going to be able to see this thing on the road for the first time, I believe, in around 10 or 11 years. So I'm going to tighten those 4 bolts down on the pulley. We're going to put our other pulley back on that I took off to get clearance, and then we're going to put the belt on. So I actually went ahead and put that pulley back on, and we'll put our serpentine belt back on. I'm kind of pro at taking the belt off, putting it back on now. So I guess the only other thing right now is to start it up and see if we have a squeak or any type of noise whatsoever. So guys, I'm actually going to go ahead and say, I thought that it would start up without, something not registering that, I thought for sure that it would probably start up without this, but I guess not. So, I'm just going to kind of lay that in place and hopefully it starts. I was afraid someone would be a robbed her. Horrible leak on the head. Those headers have been a nightmare. I think what's happening right now is that where we're getting company cycles through like 20 yards. Maybe they got to be reinforced. So probably that's one of those happening right now. That's for the belt squeak. This is accomplished. So it's around 11:30 at night on a Tuesday, and I just went total all in at this thing. I said, tonight is the night that I'm getting rid of that exhaust leak. I don't care what I got to do. And I actually started at number 1 cylinder, and I went right back and I retorqued every one of them. There's actually 3 studs that the header slide on over, and it's like a brass nut, and that's kind of what, you know, has the torque. So I went around, equally torqued everything as best as I could, because some spots are extremely, extremely tight. But everything seemed tight, everything seemed great. Started up, it was ticking worse than it ever was. There was a really bad exhaust leak. So I found what one was really, really bad leaking, and I took the studs out and I took the nuts off, of course, and I replaced that gasket with a gasket I had around here. So hopefully, guys, you guys are going to hear it first, along with myself, if it's still ticking. If it is still ticking, it's getting an LS swap. We're going to buy an LS, and the hell with the S54. But let's see if it ticks. Let's see if it ticks. It got me really addled.
Oh, God damn it. God damn you.
Language?
I don't know. I don't know what else to do with it. It does go away when it heats up, but it's still not right. Alright guys, round 12. So guys, it's 12 o'clock at night. Number 3 cylinder, it just won't seal. I'm not sure if I gotta take it out and get a thicker gasket maybe. Maybe I got to nail it with high temp silicone or something. I don't believe that's the right way to do something, but when the car warms up it seems to go out of there, but it's not sealed properly, unfortunately. I think I'm going to admit defeat tonight. My battery's running low on my camera. Once again, it's 12 o'clock at night, and I got to back this thing out because I got a bunch of stuff, the forklift and everything got to come in. So I think it's time to get this out of here. And yeah, so at least we figured out the belt issue. That seems to be fine now. We've won on that one. We're going to win on this too, guys, but it's just taking some time, and I'm not really sure. I guess moral of the story is don't buy cheap eBay headers. Maybe that's the whole moral of this story. But thanks for watching, guys. If you have any suggestions, comment down below. I don't care if you tell me to wrap tie wire around it. Give me your suggestions. I'll see you on the next build, guys.